Extraordinary scenes here at the MCG. 15 points to margin in favour of the Geelong Footy Club. They'd kicked 4 unanswered goals. They cracked it open to 27. They're lining up for a 5th. And then all hell broke loose. Jonathan Brown, Nathan Buckley and Jordan Lewis. We've got a game on our hands.
Extraordinary scenes, Gaz. I don't think I've seen anything like that. And obviously the talking point is this umpiring controversy. They were soft decisions, those final 2 to Cam Rayner. First one against Kai Lohmann, Tom Stewart in the first quarter, but 3 of their goals to keep them in it have come from the umpiring.
We'll go through them in a moment, but your first thoughts, Spucks?
Disgraceful. I'm not a Cats supporter, but I was angry. That was ridiculous. It's a final. That is so soft.
All right, let's talk you through it here, because we've seen a lot of footy between the 4 of us, but what happened in that, particularly that last few minutes, there was that one early in the piece that was soft too. This was Stewart v Lohmann in a final. You're going to make some contact as a defender and a forward. A forward will initiate that as much as a defender.
How often's that happen in a game of footy, Gaz?
Yeah, hundreds, but this is the one. So he's lining up for goal at the other end of the ground here.
To go 35 points up.
To go 35 up and kick 5 in a row. The goal's kicked. Guthrie makes an idiotic mistake anyway, but not enough really to have this turn, and they get another goal from the goal square.
They lost control. They really did, the umpires, and rightly. I mean, we were getting abused as commentators from the crowd. The crowd was angry, and rightly so. This just shouldn't have happened. I don't know. I told him where to go. it just shouldn't have happened. So
it's been quite a remarkable half of footy, but none more so than the last 4 or 5 minutes, John. Ralph, thanks to Matronics. You've seen a lot of footy too, Ralphie. I'm not sure you can see much that's going to match that.
This was extraordinary. Greg Swan will be absolutely losing his mind as the AFL's new football boss. He came in with a mandate to try and bring back common sense to the AFL, to try and get rid of these kind of own goals. He is the head of the umpires, and he's been preaching discretion. Don't insert yourself into the game. Let's roll through it. He came in with this kind of attitude, and instead, well, we see this free kick down the ground. Heaven forbid what would happen if this game was decided by a couple of points, and we saw Chris Scott in a post-match press conference. This is not a free kick in the pre-season. This is not a free kick in a final, and it's certainly not one when Stengel has the ball on his boot to take the game to a 33-point margin. So instead, we get umpires who lose all common sense, and then the second goal. Again, where is your feel for the game here? So an AFL umpire's probably cost himself a week 2 umpiring slot, and the AFL brings itself back into the game after, let's face it, one of the worst years for the AFL administration. Let's hope, for Geelong's sake, they can find a way to win this game, because this was an absolute catastrophe.
Well, don't go anywhere, Ralphie, because we might need your post-game, depending on the result. Zach Guthrie's not going to enjoy it. I just want to make that, don't give the umpire the opportunity to make that secondary decision. Everyone in the ground, 90,000 people are looking at you going, don't go to, wait, you're not going to achieve anything other than potentially what happened.
Yeah, that's right. Look, as a Lions supporter, you love the goals, but it's a shocking decision. You know what I mean? Like, it's disappointing that umpires get involved, but you're right. You've got to show maturity in that situation when it's gone against you. Let's see what happens in the second half.
You know what we're going to do as you 3 elder statesmen of the game, we're going to move on.
So 10th preliminary final coming for Geelong coach Chris Scott. Jonathan Brown, Nathan Buckley, Jordan Lewis, give us your first impressions.
They were brilliant tonight, the Cats, all around the ground. Their pressure was magnificent. They hunted the Lions. When we've seen the Lions for the last 18 months hunt teams, Geelong served it back to them.
It's not every game that your best laid plans come to bear, but it sounds like everything that the Cats wanted to achieve, they were able to achieve across the majority of the 4 quarters, which is a fair effort against the reigning premier and one team that we think is one of the best in the comp.
I thought it was a powerful performance, and a lot had been spoken about their games in the lead-up, and there was a big question mark. They hadn't played anyone. They hadn't dealt with the physicality that they were going to deal with the Brisbane side, who were seasoned, matured, big game players, and they dealt with it really well. I thought they controlled the game from the first moment to the end, and it was only those couple of goals to Rayner that brought Brisbane back a little bit, but they were in total control.
It was a 10-goaler for me. It felt like a 10-goal thumping, didn't it? You're right, those goals. And Geelong's inaccuracy early in the game.
38 points was the final margin. Tonight's number 1, with thanks to Ford Ranger, was Max Holmes.
Yeah, he was brilliant, wasn't he? He had an unbelievable third quarter, including 10-plus disposals, 300-plus metres gained and a goal. So that was just a dynamic. He's such a power runner, isn't he? As Chris said, he's had an amazing season. So clearly he's ahead on in the best and fairest voting, I reckon. So get on Max Holmes. But he was brilliant, along with Bailey Smith.
Well, it was about maximum effect. He only had the 23 touches, and the Cats had 40 touches less than the Lions throughout the night. So it was about effect. In his third quarter was huge. I think it was 300 metres gained, 10 touches, did you say, mate? So, I mean, that was massive. And as Chris Scott just detailed, to get him a little bit outside the middle. And I don't know if we've really rated his kicking as elite, but he hits like that particular kick there. Geez, the penetration he got on that. Such a clean ground level take, and that was in the middle of the third quarter when he was at his best. But yeah, he was one of a lot of contributors, but probably the number one for tonight.
You reckon he thought much about the prelim final last year? What happened?
Oh, I think it would have come across his mind. I think you're only human. You revisit the games and big games and how you performed and what goes into that, but that memory is totally erased after a performance like tonight.
There's a lot of news out of the game, that's for sure. Let's head back down to Gaz.
Thanks, Jared. Johnny Ralph joins us. Ralphie, in the jubilant Geelong rooms. It is a great atmosphere down here. Not so much, I wouldn't imagine, over there in the Brisbane rooms, and not least of all because they lost the game, but Lachie Neale late was the worry.
Yeah, that's right. So I've just come from the rooms, a lot of long faces, and there is no positive news on the injury front. So Brisbane's footy boss Danny Daly says, yeah, it's a calf tweak, which is what we know, but doesn't believe it's a low-level tweak. Here it is. He pulls up, having, as he said, been really fatigued coming back after a month out with a quad. And so the expectation from Danny is it's probably a 3 to 4 weeker. And that probably means that his season is done. A superhuman effort last year to play with that plantar fascia, which snapped in the grand final, nearly best on ground. But you'd imagine unless something extraordinary happens, his season is over. Eric Hipwood will not be available next week with his own calf issue. He still needs another week. So they play VFL. They play a final tomorrow where the likes of Tunstall and Reville will play in that clash. So will Oscar McInerney. Maybe they want to tweak up their ruck setup. But yeah, no one wants to underestimate how massive a loss it is to have Brownlow medalist and best and fairest player out.
And we'd love to be erring on the side of positive, but the three of us all just screwed our face up when you said that. You're not coming back from a calf injury at this time of the year. So that's no good. What about the controversy? Where does that all sit?
So it won't be a staging fine you wouldn't imagine for Cam Rayner, because it has to be excessive exaggeration. He doesn't grab at his face. But the fact that we're thinking about staging, and this game was nearly turned on its head, shows what an extraordinary situation it was. Spoke to Ray Chamberlain. He says 6 to 8 years ago you'd have some discretion as an umpire. You'd say, hey, boy, get up, keep playing on. But he says once the first free kick was paid, under a really tight threshold these days, the AFL wants black and white rulings. They don't want to say it's a final, so let it run. He says once that first free kick was paid against O'Connor, it was probably a free kick with Guthrie. But again, I think all of us would believe that they just lack feel for the game there. Former umpire Matthew Head says that, technically, anywhere over the ground, if it's a free kick for forceful or high contact, it should be paid. But he goes, that's not the reality. You all understand it's a final. You all understand that it's 140 metres away from play where Stengel has a shot at goal.
The other thing was, Ralph, if the ball was up at one end, is the rule to take it back down the other end, or is it a free kick where the ball is?
No, it's where the free kick is paid, where the infringement is. So that's right. But again, as Ray Chamberlain would say, 6 to 8 years ago, you almost need to get someone for a reportable offence for that to happen, for that free kick to be paid at the other end of the ground. Under Steve McBurney's leadership, they want black and white rules. They want to say that, the first minute of the pre-season compared to the last minute of the grand final, it's equal. You blokes have played in enough of them to know that they're not equal. We've got to have some respect for the situation of the game.
Hand the footy back. Who had it? Stengel had the footy. Stengel hands it back to the Brisbane Lions bloke at half-back and then away.
Oh, well, I would have thought
that would have been the right way to go.
Worst case scenario.
Tell us about the fixture next week. It's out.
That's right. So it is officially out. So Adelaide, of course, will play in that semi-final. They will take on the winner of GWS and Hawthorn. It will be a 7:10 Adelaide time clash, 7:40 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And then that second clash on the Saturday night is Brisbane versus Fremantle or Gold Coast, 7:35 p.m. So Fremantle, of course, the favourites there to take on Brisbane. We could have a local clash for both of those teams, obviously desperately trying to avoid straight sets in Adelaide and Brisbane. A couple of ripping contests there, and then a couple of, you'd imagine, 90,000 plus preliminary finals at the MCG.